Disham Shimanjanaya Nijasakti Udrita Nathavatati Adipatya Bhatav. Hare Krishna. We have a problem with this verse. It seems like there's too many syllables in the third line. If I chant it to the meter of Brahma Samhita, the third line doesn't work unless someone can figure it out. Nathai vatatri adipatya bhatav vishwabhart. It's not perfect. Not perfect. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Ye Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodhanandana Yashodhanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotera Sati Srimad His Divine Grace Abhay Charana Ravinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Paribrajak Acharya Ashtotera Sati Srimad His Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnava Brindi Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shvashari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopagopinath Shama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Sri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Sri Mayapur Navaditam Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Jamuna Mai Ki Jai, Bhakti Devi Ki Jai, Josi Devi Ki Jai, Shamaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Nitai Gopramanandi. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvisesa Sandhivadi Paschatya Rasatarine Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 16, text 24. So I didn't really have much time to look at this, the verse in context. Is this when the Kumaras, when Krishna came out, and then the Kumaras saw Krishna and they're offering prayers? Is that what's happening? And the situation hasn't been yet resolved. It's just they're just offering prayers. Okay. Tat te anabhishtam eva satvanide vidit soho shemam Janaya Nija Shakti Udadrita Arhe Na Etavata Triaripatehe Bata Vishwabhartu Teja Chatam Tu. We're on the right verse. Avanantasya Saha Te Vinodaha Tatena Bhishtam Iva Sattva Nidhe Vidishoho Shemanjanhaya Nija Shakti Vir Udhadritare Naitavatatva Dipate Bhatta Vishwabhartus. That's tricky. It's actually Tradipe. It's like one syllable, right? Tradipate. Not Triadipate. Tejashatam Tvavashnan Tvavanan. I can't see it. Tejashatam Tvavanantasya Sate Vinodaha. So maybe that's the trick on the fourth line. Natavatradi Petabhattavishya. All right. I think I figured it out. Okay. Natena Vishtam Iva Satvani Vidisto Tenadisto Chemanjanaya Nija Shakti Bhya Uritare Naitavatattra Dapite Pata Vishwabartus Teja Shatam Tvavana Tasya Sata Vinodaha Nata Teja Shatam Tvavanatas Teja Shatam Tvavanantas Yasate Vinodaha. The last line is chanted differently, just like I chanted it. Let's try it again. Tate navishtam iva sattva nidaviditso shemanjanaya nija shaktirve udhavritare shaktirve udhavritare Naitavatadri adipatya vishwaparthus Naitavatadri adipatya Teja shatam tva avanatasya se te vinodaha Teja shatam tva avantasya. No, you stop. You stop. This verse is tricky. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So you stop and then you keep it the same. That's the meter. Govindam Adi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. So, and trying to do that there. Teja Shatam Ta'avata Shasate Vinodaha Achatram Tavana Tasya Sate Vinoda. Okay, we won't hold you liable when you chant it. We'll still give you breakfast if you don't do it right. So let's. Ya no avatas avana stop tasya sate vinodaha. You have to stop after that avana, I think. Tatena vishtamiva sattva. No, you didn't get the last line right. No sweets for you. Shri Shri Radha Govinda ki jai. The ladies like to try? Okay. Almost. You get half a sweet. Almost perfect. Anyone else? Now you're all afraid to try, right? Ena vistam eva satpanide viditsto. Well, 2 sweets. 2 sweets for him. Okay, you get 2.5 sweets because you're not Indian. So it's like this word, udritare. That's hard for an American because there's like U-D-D-H before there's a vowel. U-D-D-H-R before, well, R is the vowel, yeah. Anyway, Hare Krishna. The Bhagavatam is full of prayers, and most of the prayers, if not all the prayers, are recited spontaneously when the devotee sees Krishna or comes in Krishna's presence. So we're having a little trouble, I'm having a little trouble getting this perfect, and this was just recited. Just, they saw Krishna and then, perfect Sanskrit, no editors, nothing, just comes out perfect. Word meanings. Tat, that destruction of the path of auspiciousness. Te, by you. Anabhishtam is not liked. Eva, as. Sattva-nidehe, the reservoir of all goodness. Viditsoho, desiring to do. Shemam, good. Janaya, for the people in general. Nija Shakti Bihi, by your own potencies. Udrita, destroyed. Arahe, the opposite element. Na, not. Etavata, by this. Tri Adipatehe, the proprietor of the 3 kinds of creations. Pata, O Lord, Vishwabhartu, the maintainer of the universe. Tejaha, potency. Shuttam, reduced to but. Avanatasya, submissive. Saha, that. Te, your. Vinodaha, pleasure. Translation. Dear Lord, You never want the auspicious path to be destroyed, for you are the reservoir of all goodness. Just to benefit people in general, you destroy the evil element by your mighty potency. You are the proprietor of the three creations and the maintainer of the entire universe. Therefore, your potency is not reduced by your submissive behavior. I believe he's referring to the fact that Krishna apologized. Did we get to that part? Or he hasn't? Did Krishna apologize yet for his servants? Yeah. So your submissive behavior. That's what I think he's referring to. Rather, by submission you exhibit your transcendental pastimes. Maybe he means something else. Submissive behavior. Avanatasya. Submission in Nectar Devotion, you know that when the devotee comes to the deity and reveals to the deity his sins, that's called submission. Open, vulnerable. Let's repeat it. Dear Lord, you never want the auspicious path to be destroyed. For you are the reservoir of all goodness. Just to benefit people in general, you destroy the evil element by your mighty potency. You are the proprietor of the three creations and the maintainer of the entire universe. And therefore, your potency is not reduced by your submissive behavior. Rather, by submission, you exhibit your transcendental pastimes. You must have noticed, this must have stood out to you, most of you, if not all of you, that when you go through the Bhagavatam and you read the prayers, they look more like philosophical dissertations than prayers. Because, isn't it? Do you ever? Yeah. And so, prayers generally mean supplication. Please give this to me. Please help me with this. That supplication usually comes at the end. I don't know what, I didn't read further. I don't know what comes at the end of this, but usually it begins with glorification and it ends with supplication. And because these leelas are meant to be heard and chanted, recited, learned for thousands of years or yugas after, by divine arrangement, at least it appears to me logically that by divine arrangement, Siddhanta is being explained through these prayers, like by Krishna's arrangement. You know, like when Dhruva was touched on the head by the conch shell, and then at 5 years old, he's pouring out shlokas like there's no tomorrow. And I said, well, that was the touch, you know. So it's like, this is what I want you to say, because I want people to hear this. So Krishna inspires the prayer from within, that they'll say things that need to be heard. At least that's what it seems like to me. What do you think? More or less, kind of, maybe, could be, possibly. Think about it, yeah, something like that. Purport. Lord Krishna was never reduced in his position by becoming a cowherd boy or by offering respect to Sudama Brahman or his other devotees like Nanda Maharaj. So it wasn't referring, well, but you could refer it to his submission here, to the Kumaras, his apology. But he's saying he's taking subordinate position. So by being subordinate, he's not losing his position as God or his Shakti. I'll read that again. Lord Krishna was never reduced in his position by becoming a cowherd boy or by offering respect to Sudama Brahmana or his other devotees like Nanda Maharaj, Vasudeva, Maharaj Yudhisthira, and the Pandavas, mother Kunti. Or when Krishna was taking care of the shoe rack Was it at the Rajasuya? He was in charge of the shoe rack, taking everyone's shoes. That didn't. Oh, maybe he's not God. Maybe Pondraka was right. He's taking care of the shoes. It doesn't diminish his position. It actually glorifies his position. Everyone knew that he was the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, yet his behavior was exemplary. This verse, Yad Yad Acharati Shreshtas, we always talk about this verse, but this verse is actually scary. If you flip the verse around and not say whatever a great man does, other people will follow, say whatever I do, other people are going to imitate. Because that's the reality, especially if you stay in ISKCON long enough. Whatever you do, people are going to think, well, that's the standard because he did it. Isn't it? You have that experience? Yeah, So we have to make sure whatever we do is the standard, because if it isn't, people will think it is, even if we don't want them to, because, great men, middle men, in ISKCON, any man with gray hair becomes a senior devotee, and people will, just by his presence, will follow his example. So, which is good if you set a good example. But, and you've only been a devotee a few years, and someone moves in the temple, you're a senior devotee, they look and see what you're doing. So they're going to follow your example, whether you like it or not. Because we set examples all the time. Yes. His behavior was exemplary. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Satchit Ananda Vigraha. His form is completely spiritual, full of bliss and knowledge, and is eternal. Because the living entities are his parts and parcels, originally they also belong to the same quality of eternal form as the Lord. But when they come in contact with Maya, the material energy, material potency, due to their forgetfulness, their existential constitution is covered. Which is like this, you tell somebody, you are Satchidananda, you're full of bliss, and they say, well, if that's the case, why am I so miserable? You ever had that experience? Tell someone, your nature is happiness, and they can't even relate to it because they're so depressed. If that's my nature, why isn't that I'm not experiencing that nature? Right? It's an interesting concept. Because the living entities are his parts and parcels, originally they also belong to the same quality of eternal form as the Lord. But when they come in contact with Maya, the material potency, due to their forgetfulness, their existential constitution is covered. The spark hits the water. Fizzles out. Maybe that's not the best example, because the spark is still there, just nothing to catch on to. We should try to understand the appearance of Lord Krishna in this spirit as the Kumars pray to him. He is eternally a cowherd boy at Vrindavan. He is eternally the leader of the battle of Kurukshetra, and he is eternally the opulent prince of Dwarka and the lover of the damsels of Vrindavan. All his appearances are meaningful because they show his real characteristics to the conditioned souls who have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord. Krishna is so amazing. He performs different activities in different places, and if you look at all the activities, you see they're all exchanging different kinds of relationships, right? So he's with the cowherd boys, he's with the servants, with his parents and the elderly gopis. Like one day Krishna didn't come to steal the butter from the elderly gopis, and the gopis are like, when's he going to come and steal butter? I mean, they come and complain to Mother Yasoda, but it's a false complaint, because they like it when he steals butter. So we say Krishna likes to steal butter. If you steal something, it tastes better. If you steal food, it tastes better than if you buy it. Don't try this at home, but that's how That's how Krishna thinks. If you steal another man's wife, it's more enjoyable than your own. So, the Brahma Vimohan Leela. What happened in the Brahma Vimohan Leela? Krishna gave a chance for all the cows to have Krishna as their calf. That's amazing, isn't it? And all the mothers to have Krishna personally. So, the different features of Krishna, the different Leelas, it's all Krishna knows what every devotee wants, and he's just doing it. And it looks like a different Krishna, but the different Krishna is just becoming different because of the desire of the devotee, right? Like the story of the gopis and Narayan. Krishna plays to be Narayan, but it doesn't work for the gopis, so he can't maintain Narayan, the position of Narayan, because they want him. So the 4 hands melt down to 2. He can't. It's said there that he couldn't keep the 4 arms, right? Isn't it? Like, it was impossible. In the presence of the love of the gopis, he has to reciprocate with it, so he can't fake them anymore. So the Kumars are making the point, well, whatever form you take, you're the Supreme Personality of God. You're not diminished in potency, you're just adjusting because that's what the devotees want. That's how they want you to be for their relationship. So it's like, okay, I'll be like that. He's eternally the leader of the battle of Kurukshetra, eternally the opulent prince of Dwarka, and the lover of the damsels of Vrindavan. All his appearances are meaningful because they show his real characteristics to the conditioned soul who have forgotten their relationship with the Supreme Lord. He does everything for their benefit. There's a purport, and Prabhupada says, as we know, the material creation is made for the rectification of the conditioned soul. And then Prabhupada explains everything in the material creation is just solely for that purpose. Like we see so many things in this world, but the original purpose of their creation was just to liberate us. Like everything exists here to get us out of here. That's why, that's Krishna's business in creating was, okay, you wanna play away from me? Okay, here, I'll create this existence, but everything within it is going to push you towards me if you just allow yourself to go that way. That's the way I've designed it, to push you towards me. He does everything for their benefit. The force exhibited in the battle of Kurukshetra by the desire of Krishna and through the agency of Arjuna was also necessary because when people become too irreligious, force is required. Nonviolence in this respect is rascaldom. Is rascaldom a real word? Is it in the dictionary? Is it rascaldom? We were talking yesterday, the Prabhupada words, mundane wranglers, mystic jugglers, armchair philosopher, and inebrities of material existence, yeah. Oh yeah, group of rascals. Like a gang of rascals. But the way Prabhupada uses it, he uses it like a verb. That's rascaldom. Isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, we get the message. So, this is interesting and it's bewildering to people because you study Krishna's teachings and it's all about control your mind, control your senses, be peaceful, don't get angry, control your anger. And then he's telling Arjuna, go kill those people. And the more you think about it, the more interesting it becomes because Krishna's trying to teach to become detached from what you think would be the best thing. That you may not always know what the best thing is. And you may be attached to being peaceful, which is good in most situations. In some situations, it's not good. So he's really teaching detachment by, as Prabhupada said, speaking to Arjuna, so he becomes angry, while he's telling Arjuna in other verses, don't become angry. Isn't that interesting? You should strenuously try to control desire and anger, and now I'm speaking to you so you become angry enough to fight. So there's a concept that comes here, is that you have to become detached sometimes from that which you are detached from. Did that make sense? Something you're detached from may not be good, and so you have to become detached from the detachment. Like Arjuna wanted to be a Brahmin, and Krishna's like, no, Brahmin is detached. I'm not going to fight. No, that's not good. You have to detach from your detachment. And so I always felt when Krishna was saying kill, it was like the ultimate like what God wants me to do, detachment, because nobody wants to kill. And so Prabhupada's making that point that Krishna, in a sense, is like a chameleon. He will adjust to what is said in the first part of this verse, that whatever you do is auspicious. It's always auspicious. And do you ever feel like, have doubt about something Krishna says, if that's auspicious? Well, this verse is saying, no, it would never be inauspicious. It's always auspicious. That he exists to create auspiciousness. We could only create inauspiciousness by not following the auspicious order that Krishna gives. And so, Krishna comes to create auspiciousness, human society comes to create inauspiciousness. One time, it was a funny story, one time, I don't know what was happening, but some devotees were upset about something. And Prabhupada was upset about the leaders, that's common. And Prabhupada told the leaders, he said, I have simply come to encourage, and you have simply come to discourage. So, the devotee, Krishna, only comes to encourage, only comes to create auspiciousness. We can create inauspiciousness by not following their footsteps. That's our, we can be expert at creating inauspiciousness. Now, Prabhupada would always say the Krishna consciousness movement is creating auspiciousness. And if you look outside, it doesn't look so auspicious, does it? It looks like it's just getting worse. So that one may question, well, how are we creating auspiciousness? How do we measure that? How can we see that? Because I think some devotees have kind of given up and thinking, well, it's not, there are too many negative forces in the world, so we can't fight that. Prabhupada said 1%, if 1% of the world becomes Krishna conscious, that'll be the tipping point, or 1% Brahmins. 1% become devotees, actual proper devotees, it'll tip it. And then another time, Harisari was, or maybe some other devotees were discussing that around probably like 73, 74, 75, there was a shift in America. And more people were accepting reincarnation, more and more people were meditating, more and more vegetarians. It wasn't like that when Prabhupada started. Some people, but it was a minority. So they asked Prabhupada, is this shift in the world, does this have anything to do with our movement? And Prabhupada said yes. He said, because of our Sankirtan, the holy name, book distribution, everything we're doing, the world is shifting. You could easily just think it's a social phenomena, right? It's just, people are becoming vegetarian or believing in karma. He said, no, it's because of the auspicious atmosphere we've created. Then, something what I find more amazing was, I was in Mayapur in 1975, and on a morning walk, Prabhupada had said there'll be World War III, which was quite shocking, upsetting, concerning, terrifying, depending how you take it. At least concerning, right? If your spiritual master says there's going to be World War III, that's a bit concerning. Like, well, okay, so what do we do? Prabhupada said, chant Hare Krishna. Whenever there was an impending danger or disaster and they asked Prabhupada what to do, he said, chant Hare Krishna. One devotee had jaundice. Prabhupada, what do I do? Take Jarnamrita. So, maybe some of you know the story better than I do, but I believe it was Satsvarupa Maharaj who asked Prabhupada, what happened to World War III? It didn't happen. You said it would happen. That was in 1975, so he must have asked a year or two later. What happened? And he said Krishna changed his mind because of the Sankirtan movement. Now, think about that. Did the Hare Krishna movement stop World War III? Well, according to Prabhupada, it did. It should have happened about 45 years ago, or 47, or 46, depending on when it was going to happen. Of course, you could say his prediction means it could happen any time in the next 10,000 years, but we didn't take it that way, and the Prabhupada said it was by that answer, it was supposed to happen, but it didn't happen. Krishna changed his mind because of the Sankirtan movement. Meditate on that. That's amazing. So if you ever think that our activities have no effect or no potency, think of that. All those days we went out, did Sankirtan, hardly anyone was interested. We chanted the holy name, 100,000 people walked by, nobody even noticed us. The only people that noticed us spit at us. And you come back and you could think, what was the use of that? Nothing's happening. And Prabhupada's saying, it's holding back the tide of Kali Yuga. Yes. Hare Krishna. Okay, that's all I wanted to say. We have so many exalted Vaishnavas here, so they can say something else. Yeah. I guess I'm supposed to stop now anyway, right, for questions and comments, so it all worked out. Yeah. So, are there any questions or comments? Or arguments? Or debates? Yes.
Yeah, it's interesting that Prabhupada mentioned that Krishna changed his mind. I think a couple of Prabhupada appearance days ago, Ravinder Swarup focused on this same concept that Prabhupada had one time mentioned that the World War III would happen. Then he said that Krishna changed his mind. And it's quite obvious if we look around to see how much sinful activity is going on in the world, and the fact that we don't have some giant Holocaust happening right now, it seems incongruent.
Right.
You know, we can do the karmic math, and we see that the figure we get is different from what we actually see.
The world should have blown up like 10 times over, right?
Right, at least, or something like that. So Krishna is definitely holding it back, and as Prabhupada said, it's because of our preaching. And also, there's so many trends. Who would guess that kirtan, yoga, vegetarianism, what other thing that's a social phenomenon that,
Or look at Vrindavan. It's become the tourist destination.
All those things have happened, because devotees have gotten, as Prabhupada said many times, even the communists, they put out these ridiculous flyers and things about their process, their political theory, and many people became communists. So what to speak of us, doing it.
Yeah.
I was meditating on the fact that vegetarianism, it was something that at a certain time, if you're old enough, all of us who are kind of, that were around at the time of the dinosaurs, we have this memory that there was a time where people had no concept of vegetarianism. I remember when I was first going out on book distribution, you would tell people that you were vegetarian, and you'd get comments like, well, I can understand that. My nephew, he's a Presbyterian. People thought it was a religion. They didn't even know what it was,
Really?
what to speak of accepting it. They had no even concept of what the word vegetarian meant, that you didn't eat meat. It was just unheard of. So all these things have made a difference and will continue to make a difference.
Yeah, huge social change. Huge social change. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Oh, I want to tell one story before you speak. I was in Vrindavan maybe like 20 years ago, or whenever it was, or maybe more, and we were buying tulsi beads. We buy tulsi beads. We used to use them in our preaching. We would sell them. And we go back to the same tulsi wala, Brajbasi, and Vrindavan was getting more and more crowded. And it had really become crowded even then, compared to what it used to be. And I was complaining. And he said, it's all your fault, you're preaching, what do you expect? That's the result of your preaching. Vrindavan's become crowded because of your preaching. So, it's been put on the map because of our preaching. Yes? Hare Krishna.
Such a thing as long-term change of people's concepts might not be immediately perceivable. So Lord Chaitanya has said that this movement is Shreya Uttamam, topmost benefit, Shreya Karaiva Chandrika Vitaranam. So the tendency in the material world is not to have faith in Shreyas, not to become a Shrestas, but to become Presta, the immediate benefit. So I find that very intriguing. Perhaps you could probe a little bit more into how we can keep or have the proper Shraddha so that we can understand Shreya Uttamam, see Krishna's hand, and not lose.
Well, so there's two things we can refer to: our own advancement, and then the changes that the preaching will cause. Right? Both things. Yeah. This was always, it seemed to be a constant theme when Prabhupada was here: impatience. Like, when's it going to happen? And Prabhupada would always give the same answer: be patient. Utsahan nishchaya dharya. Be patient. Alongside of that, sometimes there would be questions like, do we have to chant 16? Can't we do less? So alongside of impatience, can we make the process easier? Can we make it faster and easier? That's the mentality. That's the Western mentality. I think it's understandable, and we didn't even have the conveniences we have now. Hit your phone and you've gone around the world 7 times in a second. And if it takes more than 3 nanoseconds to load up, you start becoming frustrated, right? So that's feeding into that impatience, instant enlightenment. And that generation, the psychedelic generation, you didn't have to wait to become self-realized. You just take your peyote or LSD and, digest it, and 20 minutes later you're there, right? So, and then in those days fast food was, I don't know, when I was young I can't remember fast food, but when fast food came along, then everything's moving fast, right? I think that's a problem, and I think we all completely underestimated how contaminated we are and how long it would take to become purified. I think we thought it was just like, most of us thought 6 months, a year, 2 years to self-realization. But interestingly, Prabhupada saw things different from the way we saw them, and I'll tell a story. He gives an example. Prabhupada was asked, can we become self-realized by book distribution? And this question was asked by maybe Tripurari Swami or one of the book distributors who's going out every day, 6, 7, 8 hours, battling with people's minds. Not easy at all. Especially at the airport. It's 3 times harder because they're all in a rush. And Prabhupada said, you are already self-realized, otherwise how could you go out every day? So, Prabhupada's broad definition of self-realization, that you are engaged in devotional service, so that means you realize your constitutional position, so you're self-realized. So I think it was existing on 2 levels. We're impatient because we don't see the internal purification happening as fast as we'd like it to, or as fast as we expected it to, which was totally unrealistic to start from. But at the same time, Prabhupada's saying, no, you actually are up there. You just don't realize it because inside you have so many desires. But look, you're going out every day. You're a pure devotee. And Prabhupada would say, you're a pure devotee. How many pure devotees? How many people in ISKCON? That many pure devotees. So, I think we have to juggle both things in terms of personal purification. Then the other thing is, recently I was listening to a godbrother speak, and he felt so fallen that he doubted that he could become pure. This goes through all of our minds at one time. Is this like, okay, there's 10,000 years left in the golden age. Can I make it in the next 10,000? How many lifetimes is that going to be? Okay, that's like 15,000 lifetimes. Can I do it in 15,000 lifetimes? That's how we think. I don't know if there's enough lifetimes for me to become pure, because if it continues at the rate I'm going now, I'll need it more than 15,000. We feel that way. So the devotee's feeling that way, and he asked Prabhupada, can I actually become purified? And the connotation was, I don't feel like I can. And Prabhupada said, yes, because you are in the process. So it's not about you. You're on the conveyor belt. You're on it. You're on the boat. The boat's going. Don't jump off. As long as you don't jump off, you'll be okay. Maybe you're on the slow boat because you're not, pedaling fast enough or something. But as long as you're on some boat, you'll get there. So, now, there are other statements. But then Prabhupada said, you're in the process, you'll become purified, although it may take some time. And I don't know if he meant some lifetimes or just you won't realize the purification until you're older. But we know, I was just listening to a story this morning. Oh yeah, this morning I was listening to a story. Devamrita Swami was being interviewed, and he was part of the publication of the Chaitanya Charitamrita, 17 volumes. And he said, he was talking about it was a leadership discussion, and he was saying one of the qualities of Prabhupada was that he would appreciate devotees. And so he said, after they finished the 17 volumes in 2 months, which Maharaj said, I don't know how we did it to this day. I can't figure out how it happened. He said, Prabhupada came and thanked everyone. He said, I so much appreciate what you have done, and for this service, you will go back to Godhead in this lifetime. Hare Krishna. He said that to many devotees, to not just book distributors or people involved in book production. He said that to pujaris. A story from Manjuwali, who was taking care of Rukmini Dwarkadish in Los Angeles. Prabhupada saw the deities. He called her to his office. He said, thank you, to his room. Thank you for taking care of the deities. You're doing a beautiful job. Continue in this way in this life. You will go back to Godhead. So like these blessings. And then the most constant, the most common blessing was chant 16 rounds, follow 4 principles, you'll go back to Godhead. And on several occasions, Prabhupada said, I guarantee it. Because obviously, 16 rounds, 4 principles, that's not that hard if you've been doing it a while. You can kind of do it in your sleep. And Prabhupada said, if you do, of course 16 rounds without offense, if you do this, you'll go back to Godhead. So my processing of the patience thing is like, why even worry about it? If Prabhupada's saying, just engage in my service, engage in the mission, all right, if I don't make it, I'll just keep engaging in the mission. It's fine with me. Like, and what else can I do? Go live in Radhakund and read esoteric books and try to make it back to Godhead. It's not what he wanted us to do. And sometimes even if you try to do that, you fall on your face, right? So, this is me personally. I'm not saying that if someone doesn't think this way, that's wrong thinking. But based on all the things that Prabhupada said that I've read, it becomes quite clear that you dedicate your life to spreading Krishna's mission and Krishna will take care of you. There's another story. They were having, this was during the Juhu struggle, and Tamal Krishna Maharaj tells the story that he was managing, or GBC at that time, and there were so many problems. He went to Prabhupada and said, this is so difficult. There are so many problems. I can't even chant my rounds properly. I can't hear when I chant. My mind is too disturbed. You know what Prabhupada said? Anybody know?
Was Arjuna chanting his rounds on the battle of Kurukshetra?
No, he said something else. That's, I guess, another conversation. Prabhupada said, me too. I can't. It's too disturbing. I can't. So, in other words, sometimes you're in a battle and you just have to fight, and this is what you have to deal with. It's disturbing. And he said, if you just dedicate this life to Lord Chaitanya, to spreading this mission, he will come down and personally take you back to Godhead. It's not that Prabhupada wanted to minimize sadhana, but he was just saying that, like, you're in a safe place. Take care of your spiritual life, dedicate yourself to the spreading of Krishna consciousness, you'll become dear to Krishna. Krishna notices that, and you'll be in the book when after you leave. Your name's in the book, so to speak. So, that kind of faith is important, because if we don't have that and we analyze our own heart, we'll think this is impossible. I'm too contaminated. And here's some bad news for all you young devotees. You may think, well, I'm contaminated and it's impossible. But what happens 50 years from now when you have 50 years of bhakti and you still feel like that? And it's like, uh-oh, I had some hope when I was 20. Now I'm 50, my life's over. I'm 70, 80, my life's over. I don't have much time. I thought it was going to happen faster. But we've also heard many stories of devotees who were saved by Prabhupada, that he showed up. We just, we just heard the story from Anaga Manjari, some of you may have heard it, that she took care of Pishima, Prabhupada's sister, and she saw Prabhupada come in this ethereal form and take the hand of his sister and pull her back to Godhead. So, there are other stories like that. So we have that faith. In terms of spreading of Krishna consciousness, Prabhupada had made predictions, but the caveat of those predictions is when Prabhupada was asked, will these predictions come true? He said, well, it depends on you. Not like, okay, Prabhupada made the prediction, Prabhus, we can just eat pakoras and halva. We don't have to do anything because the prediction is there. So one time Prabhupada said, the movement will spread with you or without you, but if you stay, you'll get the credit, you'll do it. So somebody has to do it. So when Mahaprabhu says it's going to spread, it means like, well, someone's going to do it. But Prabhupada's specific answer was, when he was asked the question, how far is this true? He said, it will depend on the devotees. And then when I was in Mauritius, I asked the man who hosted Prabhupada, did you ever hear Prabhupada say Mauritius would become the first Krishna conscious country in the world? Because everybody says that Prabhupada said that, and I doubted that, seriously, because it's not in line with that. It depends on us to make it happen. And I asked him, I said, did you hear him say that? And he said, no. I never heard him say that. And then like a minute later he said, but he did say it could be. It's a big difference between it will be and it could be, right? So I think in terms of, the success of Krishna consciousness, if we're sincere and we're trying, then Krishna can use us, and then it's going to happen. We're all like, whatever we are, but Krishna can use us. He can make us dancing dogs in his movement. You wanted to say?
Just want to share with you one of my favorite quotes from one of Prabhupada's purports, very short. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, influenced by the merciful devotee's attempt to deliver fallen souls, enlightens the people in general from within by his causeless mercy. In 4th Canto, 29th chapter, 46th verse.
Beautiful. So that means by our desire, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, mercy goes in the direction the devotee points. Krishna, can you give this person mercy? Not like I have mercy, but I can ask Krishna, please give this person mercy. It's sometimes we saw that in book distribution. You're distributing books next to someone else. You can't distribute a book. He cannot not distribute a book. It's like, what's going on, And so you understand something's going on with his desire and something that's going on with your desire. You're out there, it's like, I really don't want to be here. I don't like doing this. I don't like people. I don't like talking to people. I don't like stopping people. Anyway, if they get a book, they'll never read it. That's how you're thinking. So, good luck. So it's almost like you don't want the people to stop and take a book. Yes, Krishna Kripa. Krishna Kripa Das.
That we may feel that there's so much contamination that I can never become free from the contamination, but there's that nice verse, Srinvatamaста Kata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Ridyantushto Yabadvani Vidvanoti San. Lord Krishna, the personality of Godhead, the super soul in everyone's heart, cleanses the desire for material enjoyment from the heart of the devotee who's developed the urge to hear his messages, which are in themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. So it's not that our cleansing of the heart is depending on our strength, but Krishna himself.
Yes.
And there's that nice lila of the Gaudicha Marjana, like Lord Chaitanya and his devotees are cleaning, and all the devotees put their dirt in one pile, and but Lord Chaitanya's pile is huge, So when the Supreme Lord gets in the cleaning business, there's no problem, You can make everything perfectly clean. So.
Well, also, what you reminded me of, or in addition, is it's impossible to fail if we have a desire to succeed, because Krishna will always reciprocate. So if you want to be cleaned, and Krishna knows you want to be cleaned, and you're begging to be cleaned, you'll be cleaned. And if you don't want to be cleaned, you won't be. The Krishna's not going to lift a finger to someone who doesn't want to be clean, generally. Well, he may, but generally not. And generally, yes, those who want to be cleaned will get cleaned. Praying, Krishna, help me overcome this obstacle. He's happy to help, yes.
I just had one question, that many times when we go and talk to students, sometimes they have this question, especially those who are being cultivated. They say that of course we say that we have come to this material world because Krishna gives us free will.
Yes.
To choose how we want to live,
Yes.
how we can see for ourselves that we cannot be happy without him.
Yes.
So their question is that if Krishna wants us to choose, then why has he given us the material world with problems? Why not give us the material world without problems?
Because he doesn't want you to stay here. And if he gives you the material world without problems, you'll never go back to him. He's waiting for you. So you wanted to come here, so he thought, okay, I'll create a world, you can do whatever you want, but I'll create it in a way that is not going to work for you, so you'll want to come back to me. Otherwise, if the answer is because he loves you, he does that, because without that suffering you won't come back, and he wants you to come back. So it's pushing you back. You can try to forget him and try to be happy, but it's ingrained in the very atoms of this world that you can't do that. Because also you're a spirit soul, so how can you be happy with matter?
So what the students...
But there's one other point you can tell them and say, you're a spiritual being. Your nature is love, and that's what your heart hankers for. There's no love in matter. You can get all the matter in the world. That's not going to give love. So you want that relationship with Krishna, and so he can create this world so there's no suffering. Okay, higher planets, everything's great, but you will not find love, and your heart will hanker for it, and you'll become frustrated, even though you have everything. Right? So you want Krishna to give you happiness, and but you can't have it. You're a spiritual being. The women, wealth, and flesh of this world no love on thee bestow. Bhaktivinoda Thakur. You can't squeeze love out of dead matter. So good luck if that's what you want to do. You'll get a lot of money, you'll get a lot of fame, but you won't get love that way. So that's true on the higher planets also. Should we stop? Thank you very much. Nice to be here on my annual one visit per decade. No, it's not an annual. It's, how do I say it? There's got to be a word for that. One visit per 10 years. My decade visit. My decadal visit to Brooklyn, yeah. Hopefully. I mean, I totally blew it and ended up in Mexico unknowingly during Rath Yatra. So if I plan better, I can be here for Rath Yatra. Thank you very much. Shri Radha Govinda ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Go Premanandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.